All right, all you hungry minds out there, I posted a video about the AP catalytic converter that keeps the check engine light off, and that was the AP608996, and we're going to talk about that. So this is from Summit Racing, $627 just for one catalytic converter. Now I want to show you this here. Here's another one on eBay, $582. And then I want to show you here's the problems. So if you look at this catalytic converter assembly here, and you see these bodies and these cats, these are the problems right here. So 0710, $500 check engine light guarantee right here. $500 check engine light guarantee right here. Off-road system with no cats, guaranteed check engine light. Same thing here. These catalytic converters, actually this is the older, so I don't know why it showed up. This is for like an older Suburban. This will probably work. It didn't really have too much of a cat efficiency code, just to get off subject a little bit here. Moving over to here, it's possible but not likely. It's the same cat design as this, that you will have a check engine light, and I'm going to go into further details. So if you see this body style, chances are you're going to get a check engine light, and this is for newer vehicles too. So we're going to get to that. So let's, right, so here it is, 2009. These don't hold up. Is there any other pictures I can show you? If you see these body styles, they don't hold up. They don't hold up. Is there anything else that I could show you? They all list this stuff for multiple fit vehicles. 2500, 60, 200, $204 guaranteed to get a check engine light. Especially if it's not running right and hasn't had a tune-up. $162 guaranteed to get a check engine light. All right, so enough about that. So let's get into what they used to catalog for the 6.0s, the newer 6.0s and the 6.2s, and even your Suzus. This just doesn't hold up. And the problem why it didn't hold up is the catalyst substrate composition was good for an efficiency code, but the problem was, if you take a look at the insulation, right, you see the gap up here around 11 o'clock in the insulation? The power and the force of the exhaust going through this on these bigger engines, and my opinion is it's not a great flow design, and the case is very thin and flimsy. So what you had here is expansion and contraction and pressure wearing on the substrate fiberglass that holds the brick in place. So it's constantly doing this, right? And then you have the exhaust pressure pushing on it. So it's doing this and pressure. What happens is the catalyst brick starts doing this and then starts wearing away the packing that holds it in place. And then the catalytic converter starts destroying itself and then gets an efficiency code, maybe a rattle. And if they continue to drive it, it just eventually just withers its way down and out through the exhaust pipe. So if they use this catalyst in a better body, this would have worked. But I guess for tooling and retooling and remachining everything for this really wasn't an idea, although they could use this on many different applications other than what it was made for. So this is in the 3-inch. You could have got a 2.5 and cut it down and made it fit any application. When there was a lot of catalytic converter thefts going on, this is what they wanted us to use, excuse me, to keep the cat lights out for cat efficiency codes. So every catalytic converter has to have a specific amount of precious metals in them. It's not just ceramic, it's precious metals, to satisfy the absorption rate of oxygen, NOx, hydrocarbons, and all that stuff. And then in turn, it turns it into a cooler temperature at the back. So first generation catalytic converters ran it hot to lower the emissions, but your NOx gases were a lot higher. And then the newer catalytic converters produce a cooler cooler chemical reaction. Yeah, basically chemical reaction or reaction to the catalyst, that whatever's coming out in water vapor is a cooler signal on the O2 sensor, so it slows it down, right? The O2 sensor is doing this or this on its waveform, and the upstream one's doing this. Rich lean at the back is saying, rich lean, and the front one's going rich lean, blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as they start to mirror each other, meaning the upstream O2 sensor starts to do what the rear O2 sensor is doing in a waveform, it logs an efficiency code. And it could be just before that waveform or whatever, but as soon as it starts looking like the upstream O2 sensor is dancing like the rear one, the cat efficiency code is tripped and triggered. This converter I have seen on vehicles that aren't abused or in better condition and well maintained, still surviving. But the failure rate on these 4.8s, 5.7s, this would probably be okay for a first gen 5.7. So we'll 4.8, 6.0, 6.2s, 5.3s. I say that right? 4.8s, 5.3, 6.0, 6.2s. Once you start getting into the 6.0 heavy duty and 6.2, these catalytic converters just don't hold up. So this is a 608-227, which was the popular choice. But after we field tested these so many times, they just couldn't handle the abuse. So then we talked back and forth with AP and my guy, and a couple other shops were involved in this. And he said, hey, what do you think about this cat, this design, O2 locations, 2 O2 ports, 3 O2 ports. And then they came out with this product, which is this monster. So, and it works. Fortunately, it's expensive. The precious metal loads are heavy, and the case is a way heavier design, and it flows a lot better, in my opinion, than this. And the problem with this is this case here is why this failed. So then they came up with this. Now this is in 2-inch, and it really doesn't matter because you could cut this neck out and you could scale this up to whatever size pipe you want. 4-inch, 3-inch, 3.5, and you can make this fit. This is a universal cap. So when we talked about this and we looked at the engineering on this with AP, was that what locations would you prefer the O2 ports in? I was actually in on this when they were coming out with this cat design. So they were so AB&S, AP, and myself, we talked about this a little bit. Not only me, the other guys that are in the field too that do a lot of custom exhaust. Like, hey, we want these guys' input. These are the best universal guys in the business. So we need their input. And I said, hey, 3 O2 ports is overdoing it. 2 ports is perfectly fine. It satisfies a lot of what I need to do for a job. And if it doesn't, I can always add another port to this job, which isn't a problem. So they came up with saying, okay, 2 O2 ports is fine, and we could turn this converter in any direction. I said, I could use this on Fords, right?
Yeah, because
the Transits, right? Ford Transits, you can do them for universals. And then obviously every GM and Isuzu out there and Ford in the bigger power plants, that we wouldn't have to worry about this case flexing and loosening up the substrate or having a problem with it not satisfying the efficiency with the catalyst. But you can see it's a way better design. It's round. It's awkward in the round, but I think, and we haven't used too many of these.
No, we've only ever had to use those on like 2 pixels and stuff.
Yeah, so I have fit these and they do work. And what we were doing is taking these out,
yeah,
and then telling the customer, hey, you have to upgrade.
The only time we've ever still used those is like box trucks and stuff like that.
And they're still not good for box trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a product that actually works well. This works well. So once they said, okay, we got enough information from the field, they went and produced this product, and it rolled out last year, I believe. And I said, yeah, this is great. I can make this more of a universal cat then I can make this a universal cat, right? So if this comes in 3-inch, it's hard for me to take an oblonged product and make this even more universal.
And the biggest issue with that is the way that it's seam welded all
Yeah,
the way around.
it's just not really.
With the 2-inch cat that's in there, the upgrade version of that, there's so many
let's
more
put them side by
possibilities.
side.
I mean, you can go up to, that's what, probably a 5-inch diameter?
Oh, yeah.
You can probably go up to a 5-inch.
So for a guy like me, I would cut this back, and I could make this even more universal than what it was.
That's exactly what I was
So if they didn't have a 3-inch or a 4-inch in this, I could say send me your 2-inch because they all have the same load. It's just different necks.
Yep.
And make this fit anything that I want. And I said I could actually probably use this for some Hondas too. The awkward point in this was, do we have O2 ports here and here, or do we have them like they have them here? Because some of these are so nice to have that forward-facing oxygen sensor location, which is there, or rearward. So for me, this is the cat's meow for cat efficiency codes, and just having it in 2-inch and not having it in 3-inch. For us, it really doesn't matter. We would just cut this back, because that's all this is a cut piece of tube, weld it to a hat or a funnel to a heavier duty case. I mean, listen to this, ready? Listen to this. What a difference in quality. So if you're doing universal catalytic converters, the days of using this product are gone. On newer generation exhaust systems, this will work for your 87 to 2000 Silverados, 5.7s, some of your earlier 6.0s. But once you start getting into the 6.2 Ford, 6.2 Chevy, forget it. You're definitely into a whole other product line. And we noticed from field testing this stuff. And I talked to AP years and years and years ago. A rep came here. And I said, if you just made a catalytic converter that I could stick on any vehicle and I could keep one product line in stock, would be phenomenal for universal fitment. And they really didn't think about doing a production piece like that until I think last year. This, because of the size and its older technology for a case, and this case design's been around for a long time. This is your ideal universal catalytic converter case. That it worked on vehicles that weren't so powerful, and the emissions criteria was a lot lower for cat efficiency. So even though this would cover a lot of years, this is basically a dying animal. Most of these cars that this could help are off the road. Now you're into your newest generation of catalytic converter, which is this from AP. So like I said, let's just look up here. Everybody trusts Summit, right? $627 just for the part. So could you imagine going into a shop and saying, hey, I need a catalytic converter. That's going to work. I looked online. I can buy a whole Y pipe for $120. And the guy behind the counter is going to tell you, well, you're going to buy something that doesn't work. And then you're going to have at it, and he's going to leave and try it or whatever. Or he's going to take your advice and say, you know what you're doing because this is what you do. You're the professional. And we hear it all the time. Well, I can buy it for $200, $300. Dude, if that shit worked, we would offer it to you. And since it doesn't work, that's why we don't offer it to you. Or I would offer it to you. Like, go ahead, go buy whatever you want and it'll make it work. Or I would say, hey, yeah, I could buy it for $120 too, and I'll install it for $500, parts and labor. $600 for one catalytic converter. Now, is eBay a knockoff? Who knows? You have to worry about that. So I buy AP Direct. And like I said, $220, right? For a whole entire pipe. Does that make any sense to you? No. If you see this, it's a red flag. If you see this, it's a red flag. This is what you want. So expectations of this product cut and welded to your car at almost $1,300 cost of goods. Shop's got to make a profit. Custom fit work, I don't know, 2 grand, less than 2 grand. What's a dealership catalytic converters cost? I'm going to tell you, $2,500, $2,000. Plus they want a $600 or $800 core, which they will not accept an aftermarket core for core value. So if it's 2 grand at the dealership, right, or 2,500, and they have a $600 or $800 core charge, and they won't accept your aftermarket Y pipe or cat because it was stolen, or you took them off and you scrapped them yourself, whatever your excuse is, the dealerships don't want to hear it. They want their original core back. That's the same shit that I have to deal with. Call the dealer and they're like, yep, it's $1,500 for that cat, and I need a $600 core, and we don't accept an aftermarket. It's shitty, but that's what they do. Even though that the core that I would send to my recycler, he wouldn't even pay me $600 or $800 for that catalytic converter. He would only pay me $100 or $50 or $80 or $200. So the dealerships are really gutting you, and it's not fair. It's not fair at all. But this is the world we live in. So they're screwing you at the dealership on their core charges, and it's either you do it or you don't. They don't care. They're like, next. But advising the right product for you guys out there too, you know, it's a trust thing. Like, I'm going to tell you this works. If it doesn't work, I'm going to tell you, hey, I screwed up. It doesn't work. This product works. I'm not a paid rep for AP. I was involved in some of the design, and so were some other shops. But this is the deal. And there's some knockoffs out there too. I think they call it the Fat Cat. I'm not sure where that's from, but I've heard about it. I've never tested it. Because when I hear stuff like that, it kind of scares me, and I don't really want to test it. But I stick with AP. But I did tell AP years ago, give me a product that is completely universal. I can slim my product lines down on my shelf and use this for everything, knowing that I can cover Honda, Ford, GM, Acura, Kia, and you know, and some of this stuff, a manifold converter can be made out of this in its configuration. Not too many, but I wanted to show you that. And the right number that you order in the this part number will come in 3-inch. So this is the 3-inch version. This is not the 3-inch version. This is just for content purposes only. But this is fantastic. If you were using this on a Honda, you would just weld that off, add another O2 port right here, and then you would have your air fuel sensor before the converter and your mid bed, and because your oxygen sensors are close on your Hondas that are underneath the car. And then if you had a Volkswagen, this would probably work as well, which I haven't tested, where Volkswagen has an O2 sensor, an O2 sensor, and an O2 sensor. The left, I wouldn't even worry about. The right side's just starting to show more signs than the right, but just the outer. So nothing required for front end work. Where this one, if you tried to make this fit for a Honda, it would be almost a nightmare, right? Because you have no O2 port. Not sure what the substrate brick design is. I will tell you, I would guess that maybe it's here and here. So not really convenient for a universal. This checks a lot of the boxes for me for universal cat fitments. This will work on your Mopars, all your Chrysler products. They're V8s. There's 6-cylinder 3.7s and 3.6s out there, not 3.7, 3.6s. This cat will fix inventory space, although it's expensive, and it's cheaper than the dealer still. So I hope this made sense for everybody. Thanks for watching.